there yarn lovers, it's Gary and I'm coming to you from my happy place, the Yarn Corner here on Vancouver Island in Canada. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Today is Monday, November the 14th, 2022 and this is video number 163. How are you all doing? I hope you're well and staying safe. We're doing great here in the yarn room and me, I should say. Hank doesn't talk, but I've got a jam-packed episode. I've got to talk to you about like some finished objects and also works in progress. So some of these you've seen before, one will be new, and I'd love to catch you up on everything that I've been doing in my community here as well. I'll push all the kind of outings and excursions towards the end of the video, so if you're just here for the yarny goodness, it'll be up front. And if you're happening across this channel for the very first time, I just want to welcome you and tell you that I've set this channel up to talk about all of my adventures in knitting, crochet, everything yarny that I purchase. So where I purchase it from, talk about price points and how it gets to me here in Canada. So if you're inclined to enjoy that sort of stuff, please stick around. And I'm going to kick off by talking about what Hank, which is my man form here, and I are wearing. So Hank is wearing Hoka Locatelli's 3-color cashmere cowl, and I believe I've used 4 colors. I did not use cashmere. I believe that there is some wool-based yarn in there from Yarn Arts, and there is some Lion Brand as well from a recycled bundle of yarn. So I've got some acrylic as well. I truly pick from my stash what colors I think will mix nicely. So I like the colors in this one. So I just went through my stash and used whatever I had. I'm wearing a knit that I made a couple years back, and it is from a Noro knit book that was graciously gifted to me. And the designer is Jane Allison, and the name of this make is called the Fitzgerald. Now it's a knitted pattern and it's quite a boxy, drop shoulder, slouchy type knitted sweater, and I absolutely love it. I use the Cascade Tangier, and it's quite a roving but knobby yarn. I don't know whether that's a good way of describing it, but there's lots of slubby bits in the yarn as it's being spun, so that I believe that there was some silk in there that made those knobby bits quite texturalized. And it's quite a nice non-itchy based yarn, and I love it against my skin. And the design of it is quite drapey, so it doesn't really form fit. It's more for comfort, and I love that. And also the hat, it's a crocheted hat. I did not crochet this hat up. It was a present gifted to me by Tori. Now, Tori is a YouTuber as well. I'll link her channel down below. And the channel name is called Paulie's Crochet Creations. I have to look down here because I don't want to get anything incorrect. So Tori, I love the hat. Thank you so much. Let's start talking first about finished objects. Now, this item that I've got to talk to you about is one that I have mentioned in the past. So it has a bit of a history, and it's to do with iCord. Now, I purchased a iCord knitting mill machine for $40 on Amazon, and I'm not affiliated with the company that I purchased it from, and the brand is called Prime or Prim, so P-R-Y-M. And it helped me bust through some of my stash, my scrap stash, anywhere from like 2 grams all the way up to 20 grams. I had so much fun. It was like a repetition, kind of cranking out, and all of these wonderful iCords that came out really effortlessly, and it would have taken me hours to do this by hand. So this was a method of creating a material for me then to use in my works. So I have plans for this ball, but I had used half of this ball to make a basket. So let's take a look at the basket. So it's a crocheted basket. I used the iCord, and as I was laying down the coils, I was crocheting around it, like doing a single crochet and a chain 1 and then single crochet. I started from the bottom, so I had to do some increasing from the center to create the oval shape, and I was using a very sturdy, robust linen cotton to bind it all together. And as I got to the size that I liked, I then stopped increasing, and the iCord started stacking on top of one another because there was no more increasing, and created the body of the walls. So it is done in a spiral technique, so it just goes around and around and around with the iCord. And I finished the linen cotton that I had, and I then just went to straight cotton. I believe this might be cotton acrylic blend, and I have this much left, but I sort of ran out after the orange linen and then started with this color here. So I really like it. What do you think? It's very colorful. It looks like little mosaic tiles, and there isn't much structure to it, so it doesn't really hold up the walls like a basket should, but it's okay once you feel things inside of it. It does sit up nice and perky, and yeah, I'm going to be using this as project bag, or perhaps maybe even to store future scraps in, or even my iCord projects that I'm working on next. Let me tell you a little bit about how I created the handle. As I was mentioning, I did the spiral all the way up to the point where I was happy with the wall height. And then I started going back and forth. Without cutting the iCord, I was going back and forth over itself. So I was turning the work around and around as I was creating the right side, the wrong side of this handle, and continued on till the strap got very high up to about here, and then folded it over and seamed it to the other side of the project bag. So you can see that it's not a very clean seam, but it's not bad. It's sturdy, it holds up. And then what I did was I fed I created 2 loops to sturdy the holes that were on either side, the left and the right hole. And I wove in the iCord in and out through the little rings that kind of like were formed on their sides. Creates this really nice, almost like a twist of some sort, like a nice braid. And I'm thinking with my next one, when I'm doing the body, I won't do a spiral. I'll get 2 iCord and do a back and forth, going back and forth, and create 2 kind of snaky like patterns that kind of join here in the middle, and then I'll weave in all of the loops like a shoe, like eyelets and like how you lace up your shoes. So I'll have that going on either side, like the front and the back, just as a bit of a design feature. My next finished project is a knitted item, and I followed this pattern here, graciously gifted to me by my friend Jane. It is called Murano Squares Boomerang. Depending on how long you do your project, because it doesn't have a set amount of sizing, it could be a scarf or wrap, or it could be a shawl, and it is by Stitched Nerd Designs. It is a 2-color work project and relies on grids and slipping stitches to create these wonderful geometric grids. So I chose a variegated and a solid, and I really love the way that mine turned out. I thought that in some parts of my variegated, the contrast was shallow, and then some parts of my variegated, the contrast was more dramatic. So with my choices, it sort of faded in and out and undulated, and I really loved the whole concept behind knitting to the next color to see what would happen with my contrast. So yeah, let's take a look at it. Here it is here. Da, 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 da. Slightly blocked, not heavily, and I do need to soak it a little more, stretch it out, pin it down to get rid of this extra curl that I have here. That was my bind off edge. So I'll show you where it starts. Starts over here in this like cast on corner. You increase slowly as you go, and also you knit on the bias. So you are kind of knit 2 together, and on the other side you're creating one. and it also grows on one side as well. So you'll have the dip happening down on the baseline here, creates a point. So it's kind of a asymmetrical triangle. And I ended up doing, probably at a guess, it's around, my bind off edge is 1.5 meters, I'm going to say, maybe 150 centimeters. And then I bound that off, and as you can see, it needs to be blocked a little bit more severely than it has been. So let's take a look. I know it doesn't suit what I'm wearing, but I would wrap myself around and get all snuggly warm with this. Absolutely love it. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to wear it in here in the room, but let's just put it on for fun. There we go. Toasty warm. Yeah, I really love it. I love working on this. I was addicted to it. I had to knit to the next stage to see what would be the color play. And these two yarns are a little rustic. They're not too bad. Like, I think they'll soften up with a wash, and I'm okay with this against my skin, but I know that some people are quite sensitive and might find this itchy. But for me, I like it, and it has that grip on it that once you lay it down or have it on your body, I don't think it's going to fly away anywhere. It's going to be stuck where it is, so I won't have any flyaway bits because it's not really a slippy yarn. So the variegated yarn was Noro, the World of Nature, and it is a light 3-weight yarn. This one robed a little bit, so it did go from thick to thin, and the color name is called Cleopatra. I wasn't quite sure that's how it was pronounced because it's spelt a little differently. And this is what the color looked like in the ball. This is what I have left of my second ball. Really lovely textured marl in some parts. And then inside are all of the colors that have the rusty reds and the autumnal colors. The second yarn that I used was a solid color, and it was called Rustic Mustard. And this one was from Bendigo Woolen Mills. A really nice yarn. This is all that I had left, probably around 2 grams. I was afraid to play yarn chicken and do another 2 lengths of that 150 centimeter like bind off. I didn't want to go up and back another time because I don't think I would have made it. But these 2 yarns were generous gifts. The Noro was gifted to me by my friend Crystal over a bag a day. I absolutely love this yarn. I have one more ball and that one left over for something else. I'm thinking about doing a hat. The Bendigo Woolen Mills was gifted to me by my 2 friends from Victoria, Australia, Justine and Simone. And I absolutely love this. I've got another 2 balls, one in burgundy and the other one is a variegated colorway. I absolutely love that yarn as well. And I need to let everyone know there's a bit of a congratulations in order for Justine. She has gone and done something amazing and opened up her own store. Now, I'm not affiliated with her, but I have been watching her on Instagram, preparing, and her stories about like how she's held some events already in her wonderful space. And her store is called the Mountain Ash Yarnery and Gift Store. Now, she's situated in Victoria, and the place where the shop front is in the Dandenong Mountains. We commonly call them the hills, and a place called Olinda. And I love Olinda. I've been there. There's a big rainforest that runs through there, and it's such a scenic and beautiful place to walk and hike. So I want to congratulate Justine for opening up her store, and yeah, all the best in all your endeavors. Now, if you want to go across and also visit Justine's website. I'll link her down below in the description box as well. Now I'm getting really toasty warm. I have to take this off. But again, another look at this wonderful, wonderful Murano Squares boomerang. I'm going to say it's like a scarf for me because it's really long and not that deep. It's kind of my style of wraps, I would say, or if I'm thinking a shawl, I do like the shallower ones. This one's taller than me. It goes from my wingspan and hangs to around, I'm going to say 6 foot 8 inches. And the depth is probably around 2.5 feet. With a blocking, it might change slightly because I will be blocking it a little aggressively to get out any of the curl. And I love it so much. Love it, love it, love it. I can see many more of these being made. I just need to think up a way perhaps of doing an iCord edge so that it doesn't curl. And yeah, try a different yarn weight as well. Just got to match up the needle size with the yarn that you choose. So let's move along and talk about whips or works in progress. So I've got two to show you. One is an update on the MKAL 2022, and it's the Twists and Turns by Stephen West. We are now sitting mid-November, and we got the official word by the creator himself that the make-along is now over, so the spoiler alerts don't need to go out. But if you are still wanting to keep the surprise, I'm just going to be showing and talking to you about my Clue 2 I finished and wrapped up, but I will be talking further down the path on what I'm thinking of doing for my Clue 3 and 4. So if you don't want to spoil the surprise, I probably will remember to timestamp, and you can just shift it on forward through the video by clicking past the spoiler. I don't know why I do that, but just in case. So here it is here, Clue 1 and 2. One's the middle bit here with the chevrons, and 2 is the stripy bits with the cables down below. So right now it's very symmetrical. We've got the mirror image on either side. The make was quite interesting with not giving too much away, but your techniques are kind of mirrored as well when you're working through Clue number 2. And that's nice. I kind of like practicing all my different styles of knitting techniques. And yeah, I have to say, I'm quite like visually when I'm seeing other people's, I am interested because when they're holding out this portion of their make, their arms are going out here somewhere. Like you can't even see the full length of it. But whereas I'm doing it, and I'm not a tight knitter, I'm actually, my tension's very loose. I'm like, this is mine. It's like my arms are like so close. I'm like, how come theirs are so wide? But maybe in blocking, I can get more length out of it. I know that Stephen, at the end, when he was blocking his, he was like pulling it quite aggressively. So I don't know, maybe it will grow in time or when I come to block it. But yeah, I just noticed that. And so many wonderful different options in the color choices gives it each and every single one a different vibe. I just happened across to pick these colors that weren't very high contrasting in the middle, and I've seen people who have chosen high contrast, which is what Stephen had kind of instigated in the beginning when he was talking about the color choices. And it's a very hypnotic center when you are seeing it when it's very high contrast. You get that whole graphic element, and you get that kind of like almost psychedelic circles from the 60s. But in regards to wearables and wearing something like this, I think I'm happy with the choice of my two, my main color and the contrast color being closer in range. And I've even seen people choose to restart the cowl make along because they wanted to have a more quieter center and quieter striping. So I think where your eye goes for me is definitely these stripes here of the highlighter green on top of a grassy kind of like background, or it's a more tealy color background. For me, it actually reminds me for some reason with that highlighter green, it reminds me of tennis. I don't know why, like, yeah. And with these cables here, that kind of reminds me of cricket. So maybe it's because I grew up in Australia. I'm not sure. But cricket jerseys were always cables, and our tennis balls were very much this highlighter green. So looking forward into clue 3 and 4, I do have some ideas that I've been inspired by other podcasters and other knitters who have done something a little different to finish it off. Now, Stephen West has been great with giving us a couple of options when we're knitting to finish the piece in clue 4. So he says you can finish at this point, or you can keep knitting and use up your yarn, and so on and so forth. But I was really inspired by all the different finishes and makes that people have added in as their own kind of, I guess, styling or trademark. And I'm going to mention a few here because I feel I'm going to follow suit with a scalloping kind of technique. And this person has a YouTube channel. Her name is Ruth, and she's from Holland. I hope that I'm saying your name correctly. I'm sorry, I can't roll my R's very well. But her knitting podcast is called the Knitting Hobbit Podcast. Now, I absolutely love the style that she had finished off in her clue 4, and I think I'm going to do the same. So I will be going along and visiting the alteration and the messaging that she has put in her alterations on her Ravelry. And yeah, I absolutely love it. I will link her episode where she shows the finished item. And if you want to go across and take a look at how she managed to do this wonderful scalloping, then please let me know what your thoughts are on that and whether you like it as well. And I know a couple of other podcasters have done it as well. I should talk to you about the yarn. Here I am trying to put everything away thinking I'm done, but I haven't even really said anything about the yarn. So what we have here is the main color is this yarn here. It is like a teal blue-green color, and it is from West Yorkshire Spinner, and the collection is called Exquisite. The colorway is called Bayswater. I absolutely love it. It has a bit of a halo, not a halo, it has some fuzz off of it, and it does have a really nice ply that you can see the texture of the ply, and that translates into the stitch work as well. Really nice. Has a bit of a sheen to it. I do like that. And the contrast color is this one here, and it is Madeline Tosh. It is, I believe it's called the light ply. Let me just look. Madeline Tosh hand-dyed yarn, and it is called the Merino Light. The colorway is called Herbology, and it is a single ply, and it variegates a little bit. It doesn't really variegate, but it has tonal. So you can see there that there is more of a yellowish green in some parts, and then more of a jade green, like a cool and a warm going through the whole hank, which is lovely. Then my pop of color, or the accent color, is this one here, and this is from Vidalana. It is a knit crate yarn, and this one is called, the colorway is called Walking Dead. So that's my tennis ball. Absolutely love the yarn. And the knitting needles that I'm using, I believe, is a 3.5. The last whip that I want to talk to you about is one I started over the weekend. I got a bit cocky and I thought that I could start this cardigan without doing any swatch gauging or counting my stitches or doing any testing, because I wanted to jump in there straight away and start this cardigan for my husband. And yeah, I ended up doing about an hour's worth of work and pulling it back, because when I was doing the waistband just for the back panel, I was getting 8 inches of positive ease. That's 4 inches on each side. And yeah, it was going to be ginormous, like a big sack that he would be wearing. And I did show him the design initially, and he said he liked it, but he wanted it to be a little bit more fitted. And I thought, oh, that's not really answering his request. So I pulled it back, and today I started again, and I'm more happier with the numbers because I used my first mammoth back panel as my gauge, and I figured out the math. So where did I get it from? I got it from this publication by Rowan. It's actually this cardigan here on the front cover, and the publication is called Simple Shapes Pure Wool Worsted, and there are 9 designs in here by Martin Story. The one that I chose, if you want to take a look at it, it is the Bergen. And funny enough, I did a cardigan like this earlier on in the year where I used the seed stitch around the shoulders, and I had it a little bit squared off. I put cables on mine, and the seed stitch is around the trim of the garment, the edging and the waistband. And I saw this one again. I thought, wow, okay, this one has pockets. I want to try one with the pockets in it. So he approved, he said yes. And I chose the yarn maybe about a month ago. I wasn't quite sure whether I would want to do that pattern because I didn't know whether I had that pattern at that point. But I chose this yarn, and I thought I would like to do a cardigan with the yarn. And I had it from Little Knits. I purchased it. And then I topped it up because I didn't have enough. I only got, I think originally I got like a 5-bagger, and then I wanted to top it up, so I got an extra couple of hanks so that I could finish a larger project. So this is Kensington, and it's from New Zealand with Love by Haiku. The colorway here is called Lamington. I love Lamington. Lamingtons, if you don't know what they are, they're like a white sponge that have jam in the middle, and then they're rolled around in chocolate and sprinkled with coconut. So you can see the coconut in there. Well, it's not really coconut. I think it might be the silk that did not dye as dark as the rest of it. But the content in this is 60% New Zealand merino, 25% nylon, 10% alpaca, 5% silk. And it is a full worsted weight, but I'm going to say it's quite a healthy full worsted weight. Chain spun, if you pull on it, I notice that it does get a little thinner, but it is quite a bulky yarn. It's quite light because of the chain spun construction. And in amongst that, you get to see that I'm not sure whether that's the silk, but it might be the silk that is the undyed part. So you get the specks. And yeah, so I have my yarn and I have my pattern. I did my, unintentionally, I did my huge gauge swatch. And now this is how it's working up. I'm using a 4mm as the pattern suggests, and then once I get into the body, I'll be going to a 4.5mm. So really nice, thick and good quality outer garment cardigan material. I love it because in the past when I thought about using something sock weighty or using something softer, I thought to myself, if you're wearing a shirt underneath and you have pockets with buttons, or maybe your shirt isn't sitting nice and flat against your skin, that something sheer or something lighter would actually bubble up over those bumps. And this one here will be a better outer shell wear so that you don't get any interruptions from what's going on underneath. So I like that. And it isn't rough or coarse, but it is a robust yarn. So what I mean by that is when you actually touch it, it's not going to give you the silky soft feel or factor. It doesn't have that itch factor to me, but it does have a robustness to it. So if you could think of a linen or a cotton that has more multi-purpose to it, it doesn't have an itch, like it won't pinch your skin, but you will actually feel that it is a sturdy fabric in the end. So absolutely enjoying that. Now, I guess that catches you up on everything that I needed to talk about with my yarny goodness. Now I'm going to move and shift gears. So if you're just around here to listen to the crafty stuff, then I want to thank you for joining in. And now I'm going to move on to what me and hubby have been up to in our small community over the last 2 weeks. It's been about 2 weeks since I caught you up in the last update, and I believe at that time our friend Kim was coming across to spend a couple of nights. Anyway, she's come and gone, and we had wonderful meals together. We did a day outing to the Filberg grounds, which is the Filberg house, a historic family that used to come across for a summer vacation or a summer retreat and stay in their log cabin. Now, the log cabin is brilliantly has all these wonderful fixtures. So you've got those huge tree logs that make up the wall structures, and then you have these intricate tiles, you have wonderful French doors and ornate fireplaces, just really beautiful appointments. Now, I can't recall how old the house is, but maybe over 100 years, I'm gonna say, close to 100 years or 100 years old. And the family no longer lives there. It is a tourist attraction. So people come and visit. You can walk through, and they have wonderful volunteers that offer up all the information about the family, about the structures that are on the property. And they have a wonderful view over the inlet which comes in. So there's an estuary there and plenty of animal life and all that sort of thing. So we took our friend Kim there, and we had a good look through all the bric-a-brac, and they had crocheted, they had doilies, they had all this linen stuff. People in the community have donated wares, and in very good condition and quality, on handmade stuff as well as dinnerware and china. And any proceeds that they sell through the donations, the money goes back into the care of the house. That's to renovate, that's to fix things up that are broken. And yeah, so it's a really interesting way of walking back in time and seeing all the wonderful things that are around on the grounds. Also, there were some deer. It was a really enchanted day that we went down there. Not the most in the sun and the shine, but it was like there was lots of activity, lots of animals. And so we enjoyed taking our outing there. I've got some footage of that. So I'll compile something together, and you can take a look at what was in the house. I'll add them here. As you can tell by the eclectic feel of those video clips and all of the photos that I put together of the Filberg cottage, that it was built up in stages. There's the Art Deco styled or influenced bathrooms with all the tiles. Then there was additions later down the way in the 1940s, I presume, like in some of the fixtures that were around the windows. And the fireplaces from different eras as well. We got the big lodge one in the lounge, and then in the smaller ornate ones from the bedrooms. I'm not sure when they were all added in, but it did feel like it was over a course of a period of time. And if you recall seeing a green and gold china set, me and Chad have been debating on going back and getting that, because we've been back to the house and we just don't know where we would put it here. There's no room here for it. But I love that era. I love the decadence of like a 36-piece dining set, which has all of the cups and saucers and all the different plates, the bread plate, the salad plates, all the different styles of silverware as well. Just, I don't know, that sort of stuff really cranks my float, but where do we put it all? So I think it's going to have to stay at the Filberg house. Moving right along, it comes up to this weekend, which was a long weekend for us here in Canada. We celebrate, or we don't celebrate, but we remember on Remembrance Day. And that is the people who have lost their lives or are fighting in wars. So our servicemen and women and animals as well. Apparently there was a new color that was representing the loss of lives of animals that dedicated their life to the war relief or anything to do with war. So horses and dogs were used as well. So yeah, we remember. And I went to a craft fair, which was yesterday on Sunday at the local Filberg Centre, which is not to be confused with the Filberg Cottage House, which was their summer retreat. This is the centre, and the centre is it's like a dance hall that people can rent out and the community uses. And there was a craft fair there, and you'll never guess who I bumped into. If you were to say Crochet A, Sandy, and her hubby, Crochet B, then you would be right. So I walked around the corner and I knew that they would be there because I watched her last video talking about craft fairs, and she was coming up to the Comox Valley. And I thought, it must be the same one. I'm going to go drop by and see her. So I surprised her, and we had a little visit because her store was very... they were looking after customers, and it was a little hard to kind of like stick around there and talk while she had to work on her store. But it was good to see her and meet her in person. That brings us up to today, and I can now talk to you about what I've been watching and what I can recommend. I can tell you what not to watch, I think, but there are a couple of fun ones which I can suggest. And this one is, because it was Halloween, I really wanted to watch the second Hocus Pocus, but because I hadn't seen the first one for a long time, I think 5 years had gone by since I watched the Hocus Pocus one. So we watched Hocus Pocus 1, and then we watched Hocus Pocus 2, and thought that they were both quite fun. The other one that we've been watching, it's not quite... Actually, it's quite depressing when you think of the storyline, but we have invested in this story and we've watched it over the number of seasons that it's been. But the new season has started of The Handmaid's Tale, and I believe they're up to the last one, or maybe the last one already aired. They've been releasing it as it's been coming out, and we watched the last episode, I believe, or it might be the second last episode. I'm not sure. It kind of like ended in kind of crescendo or a climactic way. So I think it might have been the last one for this season. And we wondered whether or not there would be another season, because it does give you hope it does give you some resolution. It gives you a bit of everything. So we enjoyed it. It's not for everyone, for sure, because the subject matter is a little bit, well, it's futuristic. It's not current in as rules or laws and Gilead's like this made up place. Then there is a series where I'm not too sure whether I like it or not yet. So this is the question mark that I'm going to pose. And this may be one that you might want to just steer from, or, you know, it's the Watcher series. And it stars Naomi Watts. I'm not sure who the husband actor is, but I know Naomi Watts because she's originally Australian, or she has roots with Australia. And yeah, so that is about a house that has a history behind it that might be a little haunted. At this point, we don't know, and the neighborhood is quite strange. So new family moves in. They're just getting to know you know, their neighbors. They're not really clicking. There's some frustration, and they're starting to get letters in the mailbox that are kind of threatening. And yeah, that's where I'm at, like episode 3. Not sure whether I will continue watching it. Before I wrap up, I just wanted to mention a few commenters here from previous episodes that have mentioned things that I want to just touch base on. And that is Nora. She left me a note saying that I should try Vilrita yarns. Now they're in Lithuania, I think. And strangely enough, I did watch Crystal over a bag a day. She just did an unboxing about 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, from that very yarn company. She's bought before from them, and I was influenced to actually put in a purchase. Now that's lost somewhere. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere between here and Lithuania. The tracking number suggests that it's gone abroad to the country where it needs to be delivered to. So that's Canada. But I have not heard anything for about 2 weeks. So maybe it's on a slow boat coming across the Atlantic, and then it needs to be put on a train, and then it needs to go on cart somewhere till it reaches the west coast here in Canada. The second commenter I want to thank is Knitpulsive for recommending a Celtic designer. Now, the Celtic designer that she mentioned that I should look into for my cable sweater vest hoodie that I'm thinking of knitting up is Lisbeth Lavoid. I'm going to mispronounce that, I know, Lavoid, but I will link Lisbeth Lavoid down below as well, because when I did take a look at some of the covers of her books, there was a lot of the cabling that I'm interested in. Maybe not the full structure, but just definitely the cable knitting part or charts. Because most of the designs that I saw on the covers were female designs, so lots of like off the shoulder kind of large gaping boat necks, and that's not what I'm going for. I kind of would just be looking at the cable pattern, to be honest. But yeah, thank you for that, suggesting that. With that catches you up on everything that I wanted to talk about this episode. And yeah, I'm looking forward to showing you more on the Stephen West for future episodes and my cable sweater when I finally get around to it. I've got like 3 big things going on right now with my makes, and I want to get one of them off my needles before I push on to something new. So yeah, with that, I will catch you up in the next video. Bye for now.